Formula. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be running through English Theatre by me, John Michael Nuisha. Background of English Theatre. English Theatre began during the medieval period, primarily as a form of religious expression. Expression. Ay, isa pa. Ipak mo na ako. Alright. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Sir Nazar and the classmates. So, today I'll be running through my report. It is English Chatter by me, John Michael Nuisha. Background. English Theatre began during the medieval period, primarily as a form of religious expression. Its origins can be traced back to performances connected with the Christian Church, which used drama to teach biblical stories and convey moral lessons to largely illiterate congregations. The English Renaissance, though it began later than the Renaissance in Italy, was equally explosive and led to major developments in English society and culture, especially theatre. When speaking of developments in England at this time, some scholars prefer the term early modern England rather than English Renaissance. So this is the timeline of English Renaissance. You cannot barely see it, but this is the culture and politics, and this is the theater that they run through all the years. So next, early Tudor drama. In early Tudor drama, following almost a century of international conflicts and internal unrest, the Tudor age brought forth a tremendous deal of change, including a significant evolution in dramatic art. Humanism and the Reformation changed medieval costumes, and experimentation was prompted by a resurgence of interest in classical models. During the Tudor era, which stretched beyond regional, popular, and religious contexts to address a wider range of secular issues and ultimately led to the development of comedy and tragedy as the prominent genres, which Howard B. Norland analyzes. Tudor plays performed between 1485 and 1558. In addition, the theater brought in plays from the continent and modified them to fit English tastes. Next, the Globe. The Globe Theatre by Home of Shakespeare. The Globe, the Globe Theatre on the south bank of the Thames River in London was first built in 1599. Thereafter, until Shakespeare retired, this was where his memorable plays were first produced. Other important dramatic works too had their premieres on its stage. The Globe burned in 1613, but was rebuilt the following year. It is the version of on its stage. It is the version of the globe that we see in this 1616 watercolor by the Dutch engraver Claes Jans Vischer, 1587-1652. So this is the watercolor made by Dutch engraver Claes Jans Vischer. So this is, ito yung itsura, ayan. Ito yung itsura ng the Globe dati, nung 1616. Note the patrons entering the theater on lower left-hand side. The Thames River is just beyond the buildings behind the Globe. Ayan. So, si Claes Jans Vischer, or si Dutch draftsman, etcher, cartographer, and publisher, also known as Nicholas Joannes Vischer. His Latinish name was Joannes Piscator. He is one of the largest publishing houses of the time. He worked for various print publishers, making prints after designs by David Vinkboons and other artists, as well as helping in the production of maps. David Vinkboons was a Dutch Golden Age painter born in Mechelen, southern Netherlands. Vinkboons, whose name is often spelled in Ving as Vingboons. Boone's Vincebonis or Vincboom had at least 10 children. His sons were the cartographer and watercolorist Johannes and the architects Justus and Philip. Okay, so the Globe Theatre. Elizabethan Playhouse. This drawing shows the kind of stage on which the plays of Shakespeare and his contemporaries were first presented. A platform, stage juts or truss stage, into an open courtyard with spectators standing on three sides. Three levels of enclosed seats rise above the courtyard. There are doors at the rear of the stage for entrances and exits, and an upper level for balcony scenes. So, ito yung itsura ng the Globe Theatre. Ayan. So, here we have the thatched roof made of layers of reed straw. Ayan, yung buong yan. And then the galleries, there are three levels. Then next we have the gallery. So, gallery and galleries are the same but different, has different use. So, here naman, sa may malapit sa stage, or inside the stage, sa likod, ito yung where the musicians sat. Yan, dyan sila tumutugtog. Gentlemen's rooms or private boxes for very posh people, which is here. So, kumbaga sa second gallery sila. So, the stage itself was a rectangular shape that tapered at the line. What's this? That tapered at the front and was big enough for about a dozen actors at the most. Next is the yard, where the grounding stood open to the rain. Ayan, ito. Ang pagkakaalam ko, based on my research, is this is for people, yung free. Ito kasi may mga bayad to, which this has more though, kasi mas kita yung buong play na nangyari. And this one is like for free people lang. Ayan. Next, we have the oak beams used to construct the building. Siyempre ito, yung mga ganyan. Ayan. Yung mga layers, ayan. Walls, 12 meters tall and covered in lime plaster. So ito, I don't know what's lime plaster. I didn't research that, pero yan siya. Based on the painting, parang color brown siya, ganun. And then, ayan, floor covered with litter. Ayan. So, hindi siya malinis, though. Next, we have the tiring house. Behind the raised platform was a stage house known as a tiring house, which functioned like a Greek scheme. The tiring house was probably a three-story building that served a place for changing costume as well as changing costume. Dito sa likod na yan, dyan pupunta yung mga actors to change their costumes and such. And then dito yung sa taas, ito yung sa musicians. Next, we have the Fortune Theatre. One of the later theaters to be constructed in the Elizabethan era was the Fortune, which was built in 1600s. Two things set it apart from other theaters of the period. It was square in shape, and we have the exact dimension of its ground plan. The backstage area ran along one side, and the rectangular stage extended halfway into the yard, where the spectators stood. The drawing here shows a scene in the interior around the year 1620, 2 decades after the Fortune was built. The Fortune Playhouse was an historic theatre in London. It was located between Whitecross Street and the modern Golden Lane, just outside the city of London. It was founded about 1600s and suppressed by the Puritan Parliament in 1642. And in 1642, the Puritan-led Long Parliament ordered the closure of theatres in London for the duration of the English Civil War. The Fortune was 3-story square theatre with a circular yard in the center. It had seating in all the galleries, and the stage was rectangular and covered by roof. Ayan. So, ang difference naman ng Fortune Theatre sa Globe Theatre, box siya. Nasa box form siya. And yung Globe naman nasa pabilog. Next, ito, the Rose Theatre. The Rose Theatre is the same lang with this one, Globe Theatre. I don't know if that's the Globe Theatre, pero yeah, same lang siya. Pero ito walang bubong. Wala siyang bubong. Di katulad nito mga to. Yan, may mga bubong sila. Yung Rose, wala. One of the earliest theatre built south of the Thames River in London was the Rose. So ito yung pinakauna nila, the Rose. The first Rose was constructed in 1587 and enlarged in 1592. Let's go with Shakespeare and his contemporaries. Ayan, William Shakespeare. Sino ba si William Shakespeare? William Shakespeare is widely regarded as the greatest writer in the history of the English language and the world's preeminent dramatist. He transformed European, European theater by expanding expectations about what could be accomplished through innovations in characterizations, plot, language, and genre. Shakespeare was not alone in his literary pursuits. He was surrounded by a talented group of playwrights who contributed significantly to the development of English drama. Shakespeare was a poet, dramatist, and actor often called the English national poet. He is considered by many to be the greatest dramatist of all time. Next, ito yung mga key contemporaries nila. Key contemporaries ni William Shakespeare. Christopher Marlowe, the most important Elizabethan playwright before Shakespeare was Christopher Marlowe. Oh! So, siya pala yung pinakauna kay Shakespeare. Ayun, was Christopher Marlowe, whose best known play is Dr. Faustus. So, yung Dr. Faustus, ito yung story niya. And he's the actor about a man who sells his soul to the devil. In this modern dress production at the Young Vic Theatre in London, Jude Law portrays Faustus. Ayan, ito si Jude Law. Marlowe was one of the most influential playwrights of the time. His blank, versatile exploration of controversial themes had a profound impact on Shakespeare. This is Christopher Marlowe. Next we have Ben Jonson, a satirist and playwright. Johnson's works often critiqued contemporary societies. His comedies such as Volpone and Everyman and his humor were highly regarded. He is generally regarded as the second most important English dramatist after William Shakespeare during the reign of James I. Among his major plays are the comedies Every Man in His Humor, Volpone, Man in His Humor, 1598, Volpone, 1605, Epic Hone, or The Silent Woman, 1609, The Alchemist, 1610, and Bartholomew Fair, 1614. Next, we have Thomas Kyd. He's primarily remembered for his revenge tragedy, the Spanish tragedy, sometimes called Hieronimo or Geronimo, after its protagonist, which was immensely popular in its time and influenced later playwrights, including Shakespeare. Kyd anticipated the structure of many later plays, including the development of middle and final climaxes. In addition, he revealed an instinctive sense of tragic situation, while his characterization of Hieronimo in the Spanish tragedy prepared the way for Shakespeare's psychological study of Hamlet. John Webster. Webster is known for his dark and tragic plays such as The Duchess of Malfi and The White Devil. His works often explored themes of corruption, power, and the supernatural. Ooh. Thomas Middleton was a late Elizabethan dramatist who drew people as he saw them with comic gusto or searching irony. Middleton was known for his versatility and his ability to collaborate with other prominent playwrights such as William Shakespeare and Thomas Dekker. Dekker was an English Elizabethan dramatist, possibly of Dutch origin. Very little is known of Dekker's early life and education. His career in the theatre began in the mid-1590s, but it is unclear how or why Dekker came to write for the stage. So lastly, we have the Jacobin Theatre. During the medieval period in England, plays were usually performed by traveling acting companies and staged in inn courtyards or other open spaces. The plays were always about religious topics. Production and acting quality were uneven. During recurring periods of plague, performances were banned to limit large public gatherings which could spread disease. Renaissance theater truly came into its own during the Elizabethan and Jacobin eras. Purpose-built theaters were constructed and truly professional acting companies emerged. playwrights moved away from religious topics. Theater became an extremely popular form of entertainment both for the upper classes and the masses. London City ordinances banned public theaters for several reasons. The audiences were loud and unruly. Large public gatherings could spread disease. And Puritans objected to the play's topics. As a result, the first permanent theaters were built in the suburbs on the south side of the Thames River. To escape these ordinances, the Rose Theatre, which opened in 1587, was the fourth dedicated theatre built in London. The Globe Theatre, which is commonly associated with William Shakespeare's, opened in 1599. All theatres followed similar design layouts. Medieval plays were performed in an open area surrounded by the audience, and the new theatres adapted the format. Theatres were built of wood. Oh, yes. Wood and were open air. So, all theater platforms is yung sa middle actually. Walang bubong. And were open air and built on wood, yes. Usually in a roughly circular form. Circular form, which is rose and globe. A raised stage was surrounded by the audience on three sides. Behind the stage were enclosed areas for use by the performers. The ground surrounding the stage was called the pit. Audience goers in the pit paid only a penny for admission and stood around the stage for the entire performance. The pit was surrounded by balconies where wealthier patrons could sit separately from the masses. Ayan. Parang mga higher peoples kasi yung mga nandun sa tatlong galleries. Inigo Jones. In the Elizabethan and Jacobean periods, English theatre followed scenic practices that had evolved from medieval theatre. It was Inigo Jones, court architect and designer for both James I and Charles I, who brought Italian innovations in scene designs to England. These included temporary proscenium, picture frame, arches, raised stage, systems for changing scenery, painted perspective stage sets, and flying machinery. He invented all of those innovations. Okay. In his settings for court masks, Jones introduced methods of staging that were to become standard after the Restoration. So this is... okay. So, ito yung design ni Inigo Jones. Ayan. This conjectural reconstruction... This conjectural reconstruction, ayan, of Jones' design for the pastoral florimene. So, yung pastoral florimene is like... this is the florimene. 1635. So, ito yun, Florimene. I thought it was a play, but ito yung Florimene. Ayan. Shows a large hall in Whitehall Palace arranged for a court masque. Italianate scenic devices were introduced into these spectacles. Painted angled wings and back shutters shifted in grooves were used to give an illusion of depth. So yun na pala. Thank you, everyone. So, sana may natutunan kayo kahit konti. Ayan, yun lang po. Thank you very much. And, meron pa. These are my references.